Hey guys, how's it going? Ghosty Rich here today, and today we're going to be talking about the Corvette project. A lot of you have been asking me, Rich, where the heck is the Corvette and why isn't it back on the road yet? Well, there's been a lot of planning that goes into this. It's not as simple as smashing something together as I've already known beforehand, but also there's a lot of things that come into play. I can't do everything myself, like machining. Currently, we're waiting for the machine shop to finish up. Once the machine shop finishes up, man, things are going to start happening at a record-breaking pace. I promise you this. That being said, you guys seen my first video from which I showed you a whole bunch of parts that arrived. That'll be posted in the video description. There, I don't know. Anyways, I wanted to go over a couple more things with you as I've been ordering stuff and my credit card's on fire, so why don't we go ahead and show you a few items that have arrived, and there's actually some that are still arriving. I'm just stopping by this room for a second to laugh. I have 3 different rooms we're going to stop by, but the reason why this is kind of a laugh is because of how much of this is not going to be used again. For instance, that intake manifold will not be used again. That valley tray won't be used again. Oil pump, oil cooler, throttle body, cam gear, that intake piece, that silencer intake piece. Wait until you hear the difference just by removing that from the project. That front cover won't be used again. These spark plug wires won't be used again. There's a whole bunch of bolts in there, like those head bolts. They're switching to ARP. There's so much stuff that is obsolete. Heck, even all that plastic cover stuff for the motor is not being used again. It adds up quick. These pistons aren't going to be used again. I've gone ahead and switched out the injector seals on all these injectors. Have a video up on that if you want to go ahead and watch it. I've put the coils inside this box because we're obviously going to use them and I wanted to keep them together. And we have our knock sensors and our crankshaft positioning sensor. This is room 2. As you can see, we've got our rockers here. They have now had all the trunnion bushings done on them. Again, I have a video on doing that. CHE made a really wicked product. You can sort of see them right there. And like I said, the reason why they look kind of wet is because I've had them with assembly lube and a little bit of oil just to keep them nice and lubricated. As you've seen in the last video, we've got a K-Tech throttle body, which led to a new intake manifold, so that way we could adapt it for that. If you didn't see this from the last video, we've got the new front timing cover, which has the built-in cam lock, which is sweet. There's the ARP head bolts, K-Tech oil pump, K-Tech timing chain, and we've got a whole bunch of BTR camshaft stuff, including dual springs, valve retainers, which are probably going to be in there. And again, these are the push rods. That's the camshaft. Lifter buckets, lifters, and this is the intake piece, which we need to hold on to. That pretty much clears this room. If you're wondering why you're not seeing Mika right now, Mika also had to go for a bit of a surgery today. Hey, honey. Unfortunately, she had to get a couple staples today because she had to get a cyst removed. Anyways, let's jump back to parts, but we got to show Mika some love. Can I go show them the other stuff? You can wait here. The table that everyone's been waiting for, the last room of the puzzle. Let's go ahead and go through it. Mishimoto radiator. It was going to happen. I just didn't know if it was going to be right now. And you know what? We've got it all torn apart. Let's throw it in. We've got an oil cooler here. We're going to be using this oil cooler, and you're probably wondering, Rich, why are you replacing the oil cooler on the Vette? Well, because the factory oil cooler hangs down below and it sits right beside the header. It's actually a really bad thing because what happens is the header, from its temperatures, will actually heat up the factory oil cooler, and then what will end up happening is it'll spike your oil and your coolant temps because the coolant runs through there to keep it cool, and there's no airflow. So we need to change that. We're going to mount this in the front. We're going to keep it up nice and high so that way it doesn't affect our radiator temps. And what it's going to allow us to do is cool our oil a little easier. Now, we don't want to just slap an oil cooler in there and then it take forever to heat up our oil. what we do is we put in an oil thermostat. What this will do is close the loop, allow the engine to come to operating temperature, then it'll open it up, and then the warm transfer of fluid will help heat up and bring this to operational temperature, so it doesn't take so long, because that's not good for the engine as well. As you can see, it also comes with the delete kit, so that way we can do so on the radiator and on the block side. So that way we can delete the factory oil cooler. And this will, of course, help our oil temperatures and our coolant temperatures. For that, I've also picked up some heat shielding, so that way when I run these 10-an lines, it's going to help us a whole bunch for getting good flow, as well as, of course, keeping our lines cool. And there you go again. That introduces 10-an lines. We're going to be running that for our oil cooler, and then what we're going to do is put the sheath on to keep them cool. This big thing staring at our face. This right here is the new intake manifold. It isn't currently in a bag because I'm trying to keep the powder coat nice and protected. But what we have in here is a modular intake manifold that I picked up, so that way we could fit our 103 throttle body. This is actually made for a 105, but the 103 will work just fine on there. And again, this actually allows us, if we wanted to, we can actually take this apart, bolt this to the head, trace it all out, and we can actually machine this to the heads so we get proper airflow. Not going to do that right now. All we're going to do is get the machine shop to finish up the heads, and we're going to check and see how close it fits, and I will do that at another time. We move on. This is going to replace all the PCV valve system hoses. I'm going to run 6-an, and then we've got all our 5/16, I think is what these are. 3/8, sorry, 3/8. These are going to slip onto the 3/8 connectors for breather hoses going to our dry sump tank. And so one valve cover for each. And then rather than running it to our intake, I'm going to actually run a line from the back of the intake manifold that's going to feed it the fresh air, and then it eliminates that long line that goes needlessly across the engine bay. Again, I'll go over this in depth as we build the project, as you know. We've got our new spark plugs from NGK there. Next to the NGKs, if we pop this open, we've got some MSD spark plug wires, as you can see. I love the look of these things, but they're still going to be covered in some heat wrap, so that way our headers don't boil the wires, because that's the last thing we want. But these are going to be awesome, and these heat socks will look good on there, even though, well, there's one more thing I'm going to go into in one sec. As you can see, we have our intake piece right here, and let's go over that really quickly. As you can see, there's no barb on it anymore, since we're going off the back of the intake manifold for our fresh air for our dry sump system. And so it'll be nice, clean, no baffles. You'll hear all the horsepower getting sucked through the car. After that, we have a new valley tray. This is because we're deleting all that eco stuff. No more 4-cylinder mode. It's going to be no longer, what do they call it on the vet? DOD. So yeah, displacement on demand. We're not going to have that anymore. As well as that piece from ICT billet, which is beautiful, by the way. We're going to be using this. What this is going to allow us to do is add our oil pressure sensor back onto the top here. Jumping over here for a second, we have all the gaskets. I ordered them all in. Head gaskets, exhaust gaskets, intake gaskets, cam sealing gaskets, and rear main gasket with rear gaskets. There's so many gaskets here. Anyways, I ordered them all. We'll be fine. They're ready to go. Let's jump over to the last piece. You're probably wondering, Rich, you have the random 6-an quarter MPTs. What are these two pieces for? Well, I've got new valve covers coming. I was trying to alter the factory ones. Unfortunately, they just wouldn't take it, and that's perfectly fine. Gonna do some nice billet aluminum ones. I'm not gonna tell you what company yet. Once they arrive, you're gonna see an install video. You're gonna see everything. This build is gonna look sick, and I cannot wait to show you. As you can see, I have been busy and been trying to get everything together. Unfortunately, can't control everything, as I said earlier. We're waiting on the machine shop. Once they're said and done, literally that weekend, once we get the motor, it's getting put together. After the motor gets put together, following weekend, goes into the car. And then we're prepping for dyno and then track days. Lots of and thens. I know it adds up, but I swear it'll be here before we know it. And I cannot wait to get this on the track. Sure, the dyno is kind of exciting because we get to tune the car, but to actually finally get in there and see the difference and feel the difference and hear the difference, that's what we do it for. Press like if it helps you out in some way or form. Subscribe if you're at least curious to see where this is going to go. And of course, a big thank you, because none of this is possible without the viewership. Have a great day.